7.02, finalized Monroe Playfield presentation. And Derek Everly is with us tonight, and we're going to look at our plans and our final plans, and I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, President Long. I think Jared mentioned he was going to switch the inputs.
Oh,
It's over there, I know that.
input over here.
This is good.
Do we know?
He's coming. He's on his way.
Oh, okay.
He's just with the area.
Okay.
You want to test the mic really quick?
Is this test?
There's a power switch on it.
I did set it up. Test.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Trick was a trick mic.
Okay.
So before we get started, I'll take this awkward silence time to just kind of preference our work moving forward. So Derek is here with us this evening to share what we believe to be the final documents in preparation of the Monroe Playfields. And it's up for your approval this evening. And so if you remember a few months back, we had a preliminary 60% drawing presentation. We've taken all of those comments and added those to the final product. So hopefully this evening you see a representation of that. But I also want to reference the committee members that are here that work so hard for our district, on behalf of our district, on our PACAC team. We have Steve Methner in the audience today. Thank you, Steve, for your commitment to our team. Nolan Deuce is here this evening for any questions you might have, and Tara Horton is also here to represent the PACAC. Your board representatives are also Sarah and President Long. So I think we have a nice option to present to you this evening. So over to you, Derek.
Thank you, Superintendent Brewer, and thank you, members of the board, for having me here tonight to share this presentation. We're here getting ready to finalize the drawing set. We're presenting the 95% construction drawings tonight, and so we only call it 95% to save the opportunity for any final corrections or comments we might have at this meeting tonight or from members of the public. And so for the agenda, I wanted to review the comments we received at the last board meeting. I believe that was back in October. And then after that, review how we incorporated those comments. We're actually able to incorporate, I believe, all of the ones that were shared by the board. They were very valuable in helping to further improve our plan and get us to the point where we are here today. After that, I'll walk through the drawing set. It's a multi-page document that will be issued as a public bid for a contractor to construct. And then following that, briefly touch on a review of estimated costs and the review of the project schedule and where we're at. So jumping right into it, this is the plan, and I will try to zoom in so you can see it a little bit enlarged throughout the presentation. I'm also holding a mic, so I'll be maybe juggling chainsaws next. This is the plan we presented in the October meeting. And we received some great feedback, a lot of positive feedback from both the board and the community, and some constructive things to consider as well. One of them was the comment that this bleacher area that we're showing on the east side of the field might be a close proximity to the road, and also might be is located far away from the existing Roosevelt parking lot, which could be a great opportunity to leverage those spaces when the school is not in use. Another comment we received is the work we were showing in this parking area in the footprint of the existing parking lot, that could be a lot of extra cost and project dollars going to that when we do have this nice Roosevelt lot nearby as well. And then there was also a comment we received on this upper practice warm-up area up here. There was no grading or any activity that we had proposed in that location. And so we, one of the comments I believe was that it would be nice to make that a little bit more functional and a contributor to the site in terms of the planned park and athletic uses that might occur there. So that's where we were. And we took those comments and we addressed it into this site plan, which you can see looks very similar, but I'll point out some of the differences. We did relocate, after studying it considerably, we relocated that bleacher area that was sited on the east side of the field to the west side of the field. This provided access to that Roosevelt School parking lot and also closer proximity to the main entry of the field to the Roosevelt School, which I thought was very valuable. And in addition, Superintendent Brewer, you made a great point that on the east side of the field, looking to the west, we might always be running into the issue of the setting sun being in the spectator's eyes. And that was a tremendously valuable and insightful comment that I think might save pain for the next 100 years of people using this site. So here on this side, it should be nice, unobstructed viewing, and it's also far away from the Monroe Road. By moving that to the west side of the field, it also maybe lessened the emphasis on this existing parking lot and the pressure on this existing parking lot to serve all the uses as like the main entry location for the field. We decided to leave it in its as is in its current location with some modifications, still doing a drop-off where our asphalt path comes around the perimeter of that field. And looks like my mouse is lagging a little bit on the screen, so I apologize for that. And but we did, as a bid alternate, we're identifying this as a candidate to be ground down and overlaid with new asphalt. So depending on how the contract is awarded, there will be a bid price for this renovation of this maintenance of this existing parking lot. But if that's not awarded, then it will just exist as it does today, just with some new edges of walkways and a drop-off curb. And lastly, the other comment that we wanted to address was this practice warm-up space. In the previous plan, we didn't suggest anything here, and it is the location of the existing drain field for the Roosevelt School. But we proposed, after studying it some with our civil engineer, to pull back some of the contours and essentially create a larger space up in this area that's planar or the same elevation that could be a place for warm-up and other activities, essentially decreasing this kind of green area at the top left to 2 feet of elevation, pulling that back so this path is about 2 foot higher than the this lower area over here, and essentially creating a contiguous warm-up space. So there are a few other changes that I might point out through the rest of this presentation as I step you through the sheets that are going to be part of the bid set of construction documents. And we'll go through these sheets relatively briefly, but I'm happy to revisit them with any questions that anyone may have. This is the first sheet of the drawing set. This is the cover sheet, has pertinent information such as the location of the project and legal description, et cetera. The second page is the site survey. This survey was conducted by a firm local here to Port Angeles, NTI Survey, and we use this as the basis for developing our construction documents. The third sheet in the set is the demolition plan. Just some elements I wanted to point out to you on this sheet is that the hatch area you see here with this diagonal hatch, this will be demolished. It's the existing and former Monroe School drop-off, but we are realigning the new walkway path in the same alignment within this to kind of keep that historical arrangement on site. All of these existing trees that were part of that drop-off loop will be preserved and retained, as well as this existing historic Monroe School sidewalk leading up to that former drop-off loop. The other trees, most of the trees actually on that note will be preserved as well, including that stand that's over by Roosevelt on the northwest corner of the site. There are 2 evergreen trees right here. I believe my mouse is following okay. These will be demolished just because they're at the edge of the new field. And there's another few small trees, but we are retaining a very significant deciduous tree that's planted in a prominent location on the site as well. The ecology blocks you see out there, all the old remnants of utilities and things like that, that will all be demoed and removed as a part of this site, and it's called out to do so on this plan. And around the portable building, the portable that you know that exists out there will be retained, but the playground to the south of it will be removed, as will that small storage shed. And Again, the diagonal hatch indicates what's removed, so some of the asphalt walk will be removed, but there will be asphalt retained to provide access to the ramp in the rear of the portable and to the stairs on the side of the portable. The next sheet in the drawing set is the layout plan. And it just came on right there. A lot of this we had covered in the description of the plan, but in brief recap, the main elements are a full-size soccer football field, and you can see that in the center of the screen, kind of centered on the site and somewhat centered, as close as we could get, on the historical alignment of the former Monroe School. On the field, too, since the last meeting, we incorporated a logo that will be a part of the turf. It's the Port Angeles School logo, a large P and A. I think these letters are about 20 feet tall, but laid horizontally down on the turf, integral to the turf. So the P and the A will be green with a white, thick outline around it. And it's oriented the way that you see it on the plan, so that it's easily viewed from the bleachers, which will be kind of the main viewing area, and also from this hillside informal amphitheater, kind of the right orientation to look down on the field and see the PA as well. Beyond the field is this nice ADA accessible 6 foot wide asphalt walking path, and ADA accessible, so it does not exceed 5% slope in any part of the path, which makes it ideal for strollers and roller skates, and most importantly wheelchairs to traverse around the entire area. There's 3 locations of curb cuts or at-grade connections down to the street level, essentially right here with a tactile warning strip across from the existing sidewalk. Over here on the south end, got a little bit of a lag, but on the south end as well, there will be a curb ramp, we call it, or a curb cut, and then also on the Roosevelt side, leading to that playground, there will be a curb cut as well. So it'll be fully accessible onto and off of and all the way around the walk. The bleacher area, we mentioned that location, and there's some areas of future development that I think I will cover in a subsequent sheet. The page following that is the layout plan, and this plan just includes dimensions and locations and relative distances of different elements of construction, including the width of walks and the size of the field, as well as the dimensioning of the sports field as well. And then the sheet that follows that one is the grading and drainage plan, and this will be a little bit more refined for the final bid set, but this is a good sheet to show kind of where the significant amount of grading occurs on site. One of the locations is this front entry. You kind of see all the darker contour lines on here. Those indicate how the path will be laid back to create that more gradual slope up. So there will be a little bit of a proud hill at this location as the path kind of cuts along and up into the site both ways. There will be some grading between the soccer field and the portable building that's there now, some steeper grading, but it's still 3-to-1, perfectly mowable, but just to make it work and match up to the existing grades around the portable. That'll occur here. We mentioned the grading that gets pulled back to create this warm-up space area, and then as we move south, the most extensive grading on site will be to remove this knoll that sticks out onto the field now in order to grade the field in, and then also create a park-like setting with a path that kind of comes about 5 foot up above the field and then drops back down to the parking lot on this side. And this will create kind of 2 different tiers of seating and viewing, again at a 3-to-1 slope, so easy enough to mow, comfortable enough to sit against, but to give you some elevation and some additional more natural-like seating around the field. There's a little bit more grading we're here showing on the east side. We're going to have a lot of extra material left from this excavation, and the idea of maybe we can use some of it to create another berm, create almost like a full bowl on the other side. I mean, not quite, but it's a chance for some spectator elevated viewing on the east side of the field as well. For drainage, that's also shown loosely on this plan and will be refined with a whole additional sheet, but the drainage concept is to use a shock pad tile system, and I have an example here that I can pass around, and I have an enlargement for anyone viewing on the screen that I'll zoom into here in a second. But we'll use a shock pad tile system that will cover the whole field, and that will convey water to 2 different drain lines that will be underneath the field. And here is an enlargement of what that looks like, and that's the pad I'm actually passing around right there. And so the rainwater will come down, go through that pad, and if you note the grooves on the underside of the pad, that's how the water will flow to drain lines that are located underneath. And a real cool and unique part of this project is that we'll be infiltrating all of our stormwater on site, directly under the field actually, which is a tremendously awesome ecological accomplishment. It's because your soil is so well draining out there. And so that's nice. And just as a foolproof part of the system, we do have an overflow design that would connect into the city storm system in the event you would need it. But according to all of our engineering and modeling, it seems like that won't be ever the case. It will collect under the field and it will infiltrate straight down. Okay, so then moving along to the detail sheets. Nearing completion, but a few we want to add. This sheet has details that show how the concrete will be installed on the site. There will be a detail for the asphalt path that's going to be added, detail for the base installations. That's one thing I maybe skipped briefly by if I were to go look at the original plan that the plan that we're working on. If I zoom in, this is a soccer football field, but it also has provisions, base paths for softball as well. So there will be anchor locations in the field that we're able to install, or anyone using the field is able to install bases so that a softball practice could occur. There won't be striping for it in the outfield, but that's something that could be painted temporarily onto the field and then removed. And so that's what those details show right here. And then there's some details about the drainage system that are going to be that will be further refined. There's also the second page of details is details on the striping, how it'll be laid out, the dominance of the lines, which one's on top, the colors of the different lines, as well as other elements such as soccer corner field flags and the football, soccer goalpost anchors, et cetera, on this sheet. And then there's a third sheet of details, and we might even add a fourth sheet, but this shows the different fencing that we have on site. 2 nice cantilever slide gates as a part of the main entry onto the field, also a double swing gate for maintenance, and some pedestrian gates around the field that I believe we mentioned at the last meeting, but happy to point out where those would be as well. One thing I wanted to point out, it's something that's going to be bid as an alternate on this project as well, is the idea of a soccer screen. And that's something that we'll have kind of a 2-part alternate, one for the north side of the site and one for the south side of the site. And a soccer screen is essentially a taller fence that will help contain errant soccer balls as people take shots on goals. It's perhaps you could say it's not as important on the south side because the balls would be kicked onto that slope and they'd roll back down. But on the north side, with the travel lane down below and the sloping that way, someone might have to chase a ball for a distance to retain it. So if we receive favorable bid prices, and this is something that the school district elects to award, this would be constructed, similar to how you see it on the sheet. So for the irrigation on the site, again, we're kind of trying to be clever about how we base bid items and alternate items. For the base bid, irrigation will include a water line service, an irrigation main line from the point of connection down around the south end of the field with quick coupler valves, so valves that you could connect a hose into at each location, at each corner of the field. So the main line will come down as part of the base bid. There'll be a quick coupler at this southeast location, then a quick coupler at the southwest, and also a quick coupler over by the bleachers. So that way, district maintenance could irrigate trees by hand if they need to, or provide water for any sort of use. There will also be sleeves that district maintenance could expand the system on their own in the future under the pavement. The sleeves go under the pavement. And as a part of the bid alternate would be to irrigate the entire area that you see hatched. So not the field, because the field is synthetic, but the other area to the south and east and west of the field. And why we chose to irrigate this area is we thought it might be an area of higher use by the public and by people viewing the field events and things like that. So it could be expanded further in the future as well from this point, but that would be considered a bid alternate. The next page is some standard irrigation details, yet to be refined, but they'll be very similar to the elements you see on this sheet. And following that is the second to last sheet of the plan is second to last sheet of the set is the planting plan. And for the planting plan, everywhere you see with the darker hatch is area that's affected by grading on site, either to create those contours or to create space for the field. And so that will all, as part of the base bid, be hydro-seeded with a grass seed. And then another alternate that somewhat goes in tandem with the irrigation would be, instead of a hydro seed, to sod, and it might be discernible with the darker hatch on here, although they're fairly close looking, but the darker hatch would be a sod alternate. And so if that's awarded, instead of seeding this area, we would place sod so that it would be ready day one for spectators to sit on the side slopes. We thought as a group that it'd be a highly used area, these slopes, in the beginning, and it might be important to provide a little bit more of a durable surface at the onset. And with the planting, there's also about 14 trees on the site. I think I can kick back to one slide. Some trees along the frontage of Monroe, which is a part of the county code requirements, and as well as some trees along this path, which are getting lost a little bit in the, oh, there we go, in the hatch. But these kind of create some shade areas for people maybe sitting along here, but also creating some sun areas as well. And there's some paths for benches along there too that might be installed in the future. So that'll provide a shaded environment. Some standard planting details we'll refine before the final bid set. And last sheet is the electrical site plan. And so on this sheet, we can see the location of the 4 sports field floodlight poles with LED lights. Those poles and lights are another bid alternate. Those will be awarded if funding allows, but a part of the base bid is the pathways underground to these lights, as well as the conduit to the future items, which include a restroom structure that would be in this location near the building, a proposed restroom structure that is constructed. And so you'll have an electrical pathway to that. It won't require any trenching to install that, as well as the proposed location of a future monument sign. There'll be an electrical conduit to that in case you would like to illuminate that at night. And then otherwise they'll be to the different light poles. There is an item that we are considering whether it will be a base bid or alternate item, still to be worked out with the group, and that is the location of this existing pad. Right here, this square is the pad for the electrical power to the parking lot and those 4 parking lot lights. And it's a great spot for the future electrical panel, which will need to be upgraded to accommodate the lights. We were going to just leave that as a base bid item, and then as part of the alternate, to do that pad. The only issue, as you'll see in this crude markup I have over here, is that the pad is at a lower elevation than the rest of the site that we'd like to grade to. We'd like to develop the asphalt walk straight through here at about the elevation you can kind of see and avoid these steps. And with this pad here, that would necessitate us bringing it up today or during this construction period. And if we were to do that, we might as well upgrade the panel. So we are considering that as I move on to the budget sheet and tie into what I just said. The existing construction budget for the project is $1.581 million, as you see listed here. The great news is that our estimate of probable construction costs are right about in line with this, or maybe around $20,000 over, that we're still kind of working with and could probably value engineer if we need to. But that electrical work, that wasn't something we were originally considering, is something that could factor in as being further overage above this. So it's something to further talk about, but on the whole, we're in line with where we were targeting from the very beginning of the project. To talk briefly about the project schedule, so we're here on the 10th presenting, and then next week on February 17th, we will be in front of the Clallam County Hearing Examiner receiving some comments or that we've already had preview to, things to be expected, a review of our drainage plan they would like to take a look at, and the lighting plan as well, but very standard things, and hopefully that review time frame only takes about a couple weeks after that date. And then on March 7th, is a tentative bid advertisement date, depending on how our comments are incorporated and if there's anything else to coordinate with the school district. That may put May 18th as a tentative construction notice to proceed if we continue on that trajectory. And with a good, nice summer construction window, that would put us on August 29th for a substantial completion date and, ribbon cutting right before, I think, September 5th school starts. And then there would be some minor punch list items that would be accomplished in that month of September, but the field would be open to the school and to the public, and then the idea of a September 26th final completion date. And so everything's been progressing well, and I think with that, we'll turn it over to any comments or questions.
Thank you, Derek. That was a very nice presentation, and Sarah and I have been involved in this from the get-go, and it is so exciting to finally see the final output, pretty 99.9% tonight. So I'd like to open it up for questions to the board, from the board.
Do any of the other members of the committee
And the
think we missed
committee.
anything?
Would you like to add anything?
I don't know, I've got about 2 hours of discussion with that electrical panel, and I really have to have it now.
Oh!
I agree with you for all the
Yeah, I do think it's fantastic. We've talked about the field on the east side of town since our 2007 facilities committee, and to actually see it, that we can open it up later this year for the community is fantastic. So super excited.
It is very exciting, and it's been an interesting, I've learned a lot. It's been a really interesting process, and we visited some other fields and looked at different kinds of things. And I think we're going to have the best one of all. I'm really excited about it for our kids. And also, of course, I love the walk. The perimeter walk is going to be great for the neighborhood. I live on the east side of town. We don't have any tracks or any place to really walk. So that's going to be great for anyone who wants to do that. But we're really excited about it, and we will be bringing this as an action item tonight. Katie?
President, can I speak?
Yes, please.
So thank you, Derek. This is super exciting. I love it. I was wondering if you could describe a little bit more about the softball. Is there a backstop? Is there dugouts? Is it just possible to have bases and that's it, or what? I can't see much. So
Yes, thank you for that question, and I can zoom in a little bit more to that and recap it a little bit more. In terms of the day one or the end of this first phase of construction, it will look on the ground as these with softball bases located home plate, first, second, third base, essentially, and that's most of what you'll see. But there are some provisions if there was a desire for a future expansion, and I can explain that a little bit. After talking about this at length with the group, we're viewing this a little bit more as a practice facility or a place that you could play maybe some informal games, but not necessarily regular softball games scheduled regularly. We left the grading pulled back from this portion of the site. Originally, there was an idea that there could be a pad over here that you could site some team benches or have like an enclosed bleacher or dugouts. But since we did not proceed with that design further, we didn't take away from the space that was set back for that. So if that was desired to be added in the future, it could be. The fence here is just specified as a 6-foot chain link fence, so it's not a taller backstop, and that was kind of to balance the desire of using this as a practice field and to also consider the viewers or spectators from the slope. If we went with a higher chain link fence, the idea that it might obscure some views down onto the field. There are different ways to accommodate that if it was something that was desired to be pursued more, but for this case we didn't. There is also a pedestrian gate right here that if people were to sit out here, like say on a temporary team bench or something like that, at least there's a ingress egress way in and out. But beyond what you would notice, physically in person once this is constructed, will just be those 4 base locations, and you won't see those when they're removed and the plugs are put in temporarily for soccer or football use, but you would see them, of course, when they're installed.
Could you please give me some more detail about the restroom in that location?
Yes. So the, let's see, the best one is if I were to go and click on this one page. I think there's a footprint of it. So the idea with the restroom in this location was to site something in relatively close proximity to the primary parking area as well as the bleachers. And this site seemed to make the most sense. It's relatively flat, right behind the bleachers. It's not on this slope area, and it's not too far of a distance walk from the parking lot. And it's also on your way into and out of the sporting event. This drop-off, this is another drop-off area on this side with a curb and the asphalt walk. This is a widened walk, about 8 foot wide. It's only 8 foot wide walk on the site. The rest are all 6 foot wide. And so it creates a little bit more of an entry promenade, but it was also designed to accommodate vehicular movement into the site if there needed to be an ambulance or another vehicle that travel out onto the field. And so all those reasons pointed to this location being ideal. And also by locating it here, we brought conduit all the way to this point. So if there was a desire to place it somewhere else, say south of that in the future, it could be along the conduit path as well. But by bringing it out to this location, it I guess, ran longer conduit through the site, so it gave you more options and if there was a desire to site it elsewhere in the future.
And so the bleachers, what's the number of people that we're looking at with that size?
The bleachers are going to be procured independently of this contract, and because I think the idea is with contractor markup versus just direct procurement through a school contract.
Right.
It's variable. The space is large enough, I believe it was, to accommodate a 10-row bleacher. You can see it's 24 feet in depth by 73 foot, or maybe a little bit shorter of that, in length. And so I believe it's 10-row. I unfortunately don't have an exact number for you, Director Hebert, but something we can follow up with.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's a great plan. I'm thrilled. Thank you.
So the
Thank you.
interim use for bathrooms, clearly, I
Yes.
think that.
Thank you, Director Methner. For the restrooms, that is part of the reason this existing portable is being retained, although it might not be the only answer the district decides for restrooms on site. But there is, as I understand it, a restroom in here, and that's why the access, there's a this is a bad plan to see it, but there's a pedestrian gate on the site plan as well here. So if someone needed from the field to use the restroom, they could go through this gate and run up either these ramps or the steps to get into the portable structure. And I imagine in the location of this bleacher, there could be a temporary portable restroom set there with a few of them. You could even do an enclosure around it if you wanted to, but it just provides a flat space that they could be accommodated there. Otherwise, only permanent ones will be at the existing portable.
Okay. Thank
And to
you.
go a little further into the softball, Katie, it's not part of the base bid, but it will be an option to purchase, I can't remember the technical name of the backstop, but there's a shell backstop that's on wheels, and that's a reason why we put in a larger gate to be able to pull that onto the site, to bring it onto the turf itself so you can have a portable backstop there. And then in speaking with Dwayne and also the head softball coach, you know, what I found was we have one of the best, you know, natural fields for softball in the league. It is on the west side of town, but and it's not. It drains really well. But when we have a really significant rain, we can have a situation where we have to delay a number of games because it just does. It gets too saturated. It's not safe to play. So in speaking with the head coach of the softball team, you know, this will primarily be a place to practice in preparation for state tournaments and regional tournaments, etc. But under extreme circumstances, when the water just won't allow it, you could play a game here. And, you know, with that portable backstop, with the bases that can be sunk into the sleeves, as well as, you know, what Forks does, and this is what we learned when we took our tour to Quileute Valley School District. You know, you can paint a home run fence line out in the outfield there, and put up a temporary fence that would suffice for a interscholastic game. And the head softball coach concurred with that. Again, it's not going to be our primary place to play.
Right.
Primarily will be practice, but under the right circumstances, instead of canceling 2 weeks worth of games, we could play a game there. Because the nice thing about this surface is, from what I understand, Eric, that it can rain significantly and you can play on it. You can just keep playing on it because there's no, it doesn't become slick. So anyway, that's the intent. Softball can be played there, but it won't be the primary place of play.
Thank you, Superintendent Brewer, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that was my fault. It was in response to the softball. We did make accommodations for it in the form of that portable backstop. I didn't remember it because it's also procured like the bleachers separately. But we graded out this area, which you can see this larger grading by the portable, so they can be kept there. And then district maintenance or grounds crew will hook up to it, pull it along this path. And it was too big at about over 20 feet to fit in through our cantilever slide gates. So we put a separate double swing gate for maintenance only so that portable backstop could get onto the field. It is a very important component to this. This is why we put this double swing gate in, just to accommodate that. But this also becomes a nice maintenance access out on the side as well. So that'll be a part of it and accommodate the use.
In our conversations, and Dwayne can concur with this, but the head softball coach was very thankful for this opportunity.
Yeah, I've experienced, I've watched the kids, the softball players struggle on turf because we don't have anywhere to practice. So it's a very different play. So yeah, I'm sure they're excited about it.
Yep.
But there are also a lot of canceled games, and we've used the Elwalk field before. So.
Yep.
And to confirm what Superintendent Brewer said, this it will be year-round at all raining conditions. I imagine the only time you'd ever have a rain out is if it rains so hard that you couldn't see the baseball coming at you or softball.
Now that soccer fence, the catch fence there, that's gonna be as, I do see on the one side it's not as important, but that going over, I've seen these kids kick those balls and they'll be hitting that portable and even potentially going all the way into the
Homes.
mobile homes
yeah.
back there. So I think that's not even gonna really be I think that just has to be part of the whole thing. Don't you? Am I wrong?
It would be great.
How much does it add?
It's not.
I'll get my check.
It's not. It's not included in that estimate of proposed construction cost. It will be like a separate line item as an estimated bid alternate item amount. But yeah, it would be wonderful. It's very common to put that in, and unfortunately, it's harder to put those in after construction, just because they generally have large footings that are nice to be installed integral with the curb that goes around the field. There are ways to do it, though. I mean, soccer screens definitely get added to fields post fact, but just in order to preserve the construction budget that we have for this project and make sure that the field is constructed and the walk and all that, it was shifted as an alternate item.
And the board will have an opportunity when we open the bids, to award the bid. You'll see the base bid and you'll see all the bid alternates. The board at that time has the discretion to award the base bid as well as any bid alternates that you choose to do. But I've been very adamant around sticking to the budget that this
Yes.
board set back in October. And that's what we're sticking to. But you will have options when hopefully the bids come in a little lower and you have some great options. But that will be at the board discretion upon bid open, or when we start opening bids.
Director Wright, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't have any questions. Eric, I'm happy. You're taking our suggestions, our requests, and you're implementing the changes and you're staying on budget. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
And I know the PACAC has done a lot of work on that too, so thank you guys.
Yep. I want to thank you again, those of you on the committee who are here tonight. Thank you for coming. Any other comments or questions? Superintendent Brewer?
Yeah, and the work of the PACAC has been phenomenal. you know, the value that, you know, in the very first stages of our capital planning, the committee has been invaluable to bring exactly what we wanted, which is, we know we have school district voice, but what's the community voice? And so the community partners that are a part of that team, and Steve and Tara are part of the community voice, have been invaluable. And I think that's just the beginning of the value that team will bring to this community around the next phase, which is we're starting to look, and tonight you will be taking some action on the design of Stevens Middle School. So I'm really excited and happy for the team, and you know, great choice by the school board to bring the community into those conversations to make sure what we build is what the community expects.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you, Derek. We appreciate you coming out tonight, and we will be taking action on this in a little while.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.